He is a pathetic, ugly loser who joins an academy where boys and girls are not allowed to get laid. However, he decides to rizz every girl and becomes the strongest mecha user in the world. This ugly loser, Amata, is totally into a movie called The Skies of Aquaria. He's so focused on it that he doesn't even notice when his dad walks into the room. His dad asks why Amata likes the movie so much and wonders if it's because of the actress Alicia, who plays Sylphie. Even though Amata loves the movie, it doesn't seem very popular. Later, when Amata is cleaning the theater, he sees a girl sitting alone, crying while watching the same movie. He goes over to talk to her and realizes she looks a lot like Alicia. The girl introduces herself as Suzushiro Mikono, and the two start talking and get along right away. As they chat, Amata gets so excited that he starts floating in the air. Embarrassed, he excuses himself and goes to his room. There, he opens a panel on his leg and slides in metal plates to stop himself from floating. When he comes back, they take a boat ride and talk about the abductors, giant robots that attack their planet, Vega, and kidnap people. While talking, Amata tries to touch Mikono's hand, but a flying cat named Shushu jumps out of her hair and attacks him to protect her. Later, Mikono tells Amata about a secret academy where people with special powers, called elements, are trained to pilot robots called Aquarias. Amata gets excited again and excuses himself to calm down. Out of nowhere, huge abductor robots appear in the sky and attack the city, capturing people. The M-type Aquarias, piloted by men, are sent out to fight them. Amata runs back to Mikono, and they watch the battle together. A very strong abductor shows up, defeating the M-types easily. The command center sends in the F-types, piloted by women, for backup. Normally, M-types and F-types don't work together because of a strange barrier that keeps their robots from merging. Even with both M-types and F-types fighting, the abductors are still too powerful. During the battle, a statue starts falling and almost crushes Mikono, but Amata jumps in and shields her, getting hurt in the process. The main abductor robot prepares to attack again. Desperate, Amata removes the metal plates from his legs, making himself light enough to fly. He grabs Mikono and flies into the sky, shocking everyone watching. Amata and Mikono suddenly find themselves inside the cockpit of a mysterious robot. Amata uses a hidden power and calls out the name Aquarian. This causes several robots to combine into one huge, powerful robot, a form no one has seen before. Back at the base, it's revealed that this new Aquarian can merge male and female pilots, which the regular robots can't do. The abductors are from another planet called Altair and have advanced technology. On Vega, the organization Neo-DEAVA defends against these attacks. They keep male and female pilots separate, even living in dorms divided by a Berlin Wall. During the fight, Amata has a hard time controlling the Aquarian because he's new to it. Jessica, one of the female pilots, helps him figure out how to use the robot's weapons. Together, they destroy a lot of enemy robots. The lead abductor pilot, Kagura, keeps fighting and seems interested in someone inside the Aquarian. He smiles like he's found his target. Amata's powers and past are revealed. He's always been treated like an outsider because of his abilities, but Mikono's support gives him strength. He powers up the Aquarian and breaks free from a trap. Using his gravity-controlling powers, he throws the main abductor into space. Just then, a portal opens and pulls Kagura back to Altair. After the battle, the Aquarian crashes, and Mikono and Amata are rescued. Amata is unconscious, and they decide to take him to the academy. Meanwhile, on Altair, Kagura tells his people he has found the woman he wants, Mikono. Isumo, the leader of Altair, talks with his assistant Jin. He explains that the abductors, called Aguras, lose power when they travel to Vega. He puts Jin in charge of the next mission because Kagura might cause trouble. After some time, Amata wakes up in a strange room at Neo-DEAVA Academy and sees Kien, who starts explaining everything. Neo-DEAVA is a school where people with special powers, called elements, are trained to fight abductors, giant robots that come from another dimension to attack their planet, Vega. Kien tells Amata that he has to go through tests to see if he can stay at the academy. Amata wants to know more about Mikono, but Kien avoids his questions. When Amata says something romantic about Mikono, Kien gets upset because he feels it's his job to protect her. The two almost get into a fight, but their teacher, Donar, walks in and stops them. Donar tells Amata not to eat yet because he has to take an important test. During the test, it's revealed that Amata has the power to control gravity, which lets him fly. His powers are strongest when he's feeling emotional or trying to protect someone. However, the commanders are confused because the test doesn't explain how Amata was able to destroy the Guy Stone during the last battle. As the machine analyzes Amata's memories, it suddenly breaks, as if someone stopped it on purpose. At the same time, at the girls' academy, Jessica tells her classmates about what it felt like to merge with male pilots. The girls are curious and want to try it too, but their leader, Mix, reminds them that boys and girls aren't allowed to mix because of the Berlin Wall separating their dorms. Mix questions Mikono about her past. Mikono only says she doesn't live with her brother, Kien, anymore. Mix assumes Mikono might have powers since Kien has them too. Later that night, Amata hears someone playing the piano. Curious, he goes outside but falls into a hole dug by another student, Andy. Andy's elemental power lets him dig tunnels, and he's been trying to reach the girls' dorm. Amata offers to help because he wants to see Mikono. Together, they dig a tunnel and find Mikono standing nearby. She gets embarrassed and runs away, leaving the boys to quickly escape before anyone catches them. The next day, the commander announces the pilots for the monthly training simulation: Kien, Andy, and Amata. Everyone is surprised since Amata is so new. During the simulation, Amata isn't focused at first but gets serious when he realizes the girls are watching. He activates his gravity powers and merges the robots, creating a huge energy blast that ends the simulation early. Meanwhile, on Altair, the abductors' home planet, the leaders wait for someone named Sir Mykage to appear. Back at Neo-DEAVA, Donnar learns that Mikono is being sent home because her test results show she has no powers. Mikono feels sad about leaving without saying goodbye to Amata. Jessica teases her, saying Amata must really like her since he apologized during the simulation. Meanwhile, Andy discovers that his tunnel has been sealed, likely by someone with powers. Amata hears the piano music again and learns from Andy that the player is Shrade, the academy's best student. Amata visits Shrade, who seems like he was expecting him. As they talk, Kien bursts in, angry about Amata's actions during the simulation. Shrade warns him not to fight in his room, but Kien grabs Amata by the neck. Shrade starts playing his piano, and the music makes Kien see a vision of Mikono dying. Andy explains that Shrade's power lets him affect people's emotions and minds through sound. Kien snaps out of it but tries to attack Shrade, who easily dodges him. Suddenly, an alarm goes off. An abductor attack is happening, and Amata, Kien, and Andy are sent to fight in the Aquarian robots. Mikono, who is leaving the academy on a boat, feels uneasy about the battle. On the battlefield, the Aquarian is surrounded by abductors, and their commander, Jin, watches from space, gathering data. The Aquarian seems trapped. The boat carrying Mikono suddenly changes course and heads back to the academy. The driver, wearing a hat, takes her to the operations room. It turns out the driver is Fudu Zen, the supreme commander. Zen says Mikono must join the Aquarian because her presence will inspire the pilots to push themselves to their limits. Mikono agrees and replaces Andy as a pilot. When Mikono joins the Aquarian, Kien feels nervous because he has had visions of her getting hurt near the robot. Mikono reassures him and holds Amata's hand. The Aquarian's heart starts beating again, and they use a powerful move called the Mugen Punch to attack Jin, who is hiding in space. Jin manages to escape but gathers enough data to please his leader, Isumo. The Aquarian's punch also destroys the Berlin Wall, breaking the barrier between the boys' and girls' dorms. The students are excited and start running toward each other, but Zen quickly announces that romance is forbidden. On Altair, Sir Mykage finally awakens, signaling even bigger challenges ahead. Back at Neo-DEAVA, the director, Miss Kriya, returns and starts explaining the history of the Aquarian. She says it is tied to two lovers, Sylphie and Apollon, whose powers caused a massive disaster 12 years ago. The powers were hidden to prevent another catastrophe, but the commanders believe they may need to use them again to fight the abductors. Meanwhile, Isumo learns that Kagura has left Altair and gone to Vega on his own. A dimensional gate opens, and it's clear Sir Mykage's awakening will bring even more trouble. Back on Vega, the boys and girls at Neo-DEAVA are attending their first class together. Andy is thrilled because he's been looking forward to spending time with girls. Amata, too, is distracted when he sees Mikono, blushing at her presence. However, his moment is cut short when a dart suddenly hits him in the back, snapping him out of his thoughts. The teacher tells the students they'll be going on a trip to the city, where they'll explore the harbor and tower areas. Groups of 3 are assigned for the trip. Andy is placed in Group C with Mix and Yunoha. Mix doesn't get along well with boys, which makes things awkward for Andy, who tries hard to stay cheerful. Amata's group includes Mikono and Jessica. Before the trip, the students are given bracelets. These bracelets randomly shock them, leaving everyone uncomfortable. In the operations room, the school staff reveals that the bracelets are designed to control emotions. If a student's feelings get too strong, the bracelet delivers an electric shock to lower their emotional state. This was created because of a tragic event involving Donar, who lost his arms and his lover, Nanaon, in a disaster caused by their powerful love. The school is cautious about love because it can make the Aquarians stronger, but is also dangerous. As Amata's group explores the city, Amata begins floating whenever he gets too close to Mikono. His feelings for her are triggering his powers. Donar, watching from the control room, keeps shooting darts at Amata to stop him from floating. Donar worries he might run out of darts. Meanwhile, Kagura has secretly entered Vega and is looking for Mikono. Later, Amata's group visits an arcade. Mikono gets upset when she sees Amata floating again, this time near Zessica, and she storms off angrily. Amata chases after her, and they end up on top of a tower. The view reminds both of them of a movie they love. Suddenly, a man nearby starts playing a romantic melody on an instrument, drawing Mikono and Amata closer together. Mikono's bracelet begins to throb, showing that her emotions are rising fast. In the control room, the staff realizes Mikono is developing strong feelings for Amata, but there's nothing they can do to stop it. Just as Mikono and Amata are drawn closer, Kagura appears and grabs Mikono, claiming that she belongs to him. Mikono faints from the bracelet's electric shock. Kagura tries to take her, but Amata fights back. Amata pushes Kagura, grabs Mikono, and jumps off the tower. Wings appear on Amata's feet, letting him fly. He carries Mikono to safety. Kagura starts to chase them but is stopped when Shrade appears and plays a guitar. Shrade's music disrupts Kagura's mind and stops him in his tracks. Meanwhile, on Altair, Isumo and Jin are meeting when Mythic appears as a hologram. Mythic says he helped Kagura open a gate to Vega so Kagura could find a rare Agura. Mythic wants to see how special this Agura is. After Mythic leaves, Isumo tells Jin to watch Kagura and prepare to take his mithranized suit if needed. Kagura later visits a pod on Altair, revealing that Alicia is being kept inside it. Back in Vega, Kagura tries to attack Shrade, but Shrade easily dodges his attacks. Frustrated, Kagura gives up and leaves to continue his search for Mikono. At Neo-DEAVA, Zessica asks Donar why Shrade isn't allowed to fight more often. Donar explains Shrade's tragic past. As a child, Shrade loved music, but his power hurt the people around him. It even killed his parents. Later, people used Shrade's powers to cause destruction, until the director of Neo-DEAVA rescued him. Donar also explains that whenever Shrade pilots the Aquarian, it shortens his life because his power is too much for the robot to handle. Kagura, still looking for Mikono and Amata, puts on his mithranized suit and begins destroying the city. The Aquarian team is sent out to stop him. Kagura's attacks are strong, and the team struggles. During the fight, Kaen's aircraft is thrown into a wall. His arm is badly injured, so he can't continue piloting his vector. Shrade volunteers to take over, even though everyone knows it's dangerous for him to pilot. Shrade replaces Kaen, and Andy is also removed to make space for Amata to join the battle. Amata tells Mikono to leave for her own safety, but she refuses. Shrade's power makes the Aquarian stronger, creating a new, more powerful form of the robot. Together, the team fights Kagura. Shrade uses his music to boost their attacks, and the Aquarian delivers a devastating punch to Kagura's mithranized suit, causing serious damage. Even though Kagura's suit is nearly destroyed, he refuses to give up. Just as the fight is about to escalate, Jin appears and takes Kagura back to Altair by force. Mikono watches as Kagura is pulled into the sky and disappears into space. After the fight, Shrade collapses inside the cockpit of the Vector. Later, Shrade is in the hospital recovering from the last battle. The director visits him, asking him to stop risking his life. She's worried his powers are too dangerous, but Shrade doesn't care. He just wants to keep using his abilities, no matter the risk. Back at the academy, Andy argues that boys and girls should be allowed to sit together, saying it will help them connect. Most boys agree, and some girls do too, but Mick strongly disagrees. She says boys are impure and should stay away from girls. To settle things, the teacher decides they'll vote to choose partners. Andy hopes to sit with a girl, but he ends up with Mix, which frustrates him. Amata is happier, getting paired with Mikono. Kaen goes to pick up Shrade from the hospital. Shrade teases him, calling him a good friend, but Kaen finds him annoying. Meanwhile, in class, Andy notices a stuffed animal sitting in an empty seat. He remembers a creepy rumor about it. The story goes that a lonely girl at the academy disappeared, and the stuffed animal was her only friend. Now, it's said to wander the school at night. Zessica laughs and says it's just a silly story. On Altair, Jin is upgrading his suit and weapons using data from his battles. Kagura, however, has been grounded and can't leave Altair. That night, Amata is cleaning the classroom when he notices Jessica waiting for him. She seems nervous and asks him to walk with her. As they leave the building, they suddenly see the stuffed animal in the hallway. Both of them scream and run. Jessica grabs Amata's hand as they flee outside. Mikono sees them running together and assumes they're in a relationship. She becomes jealous but doesn't say anything. The next day, Amata and Jessica tell their classmates about the stuffed animal, but Mikono interrupts, accusing them of being in love. Amata is shocked by her jealousy, but before he can explain, an alarm goes off. A new abductor is attacking. Amata, Ken, and Jessica are sent to fight. This abductor is stronger than anything they've faced. Zen tells them to avoid direct hits and stay low. They don't realize Jin is piloting the ship from Altair. The abductor deals heavy damage, forcing the Aquarian to split into its smaller robots. Zen suggests an element change, switching Andy out for Yunoha. To everyone's surprise, Yunoha transforms from the stuffed animal into her human form. She apologizes to Amata and Jessica for scaring them the night before. She also tells Mikono there's nothing romantic going on between Amata and Jessica. Yunoha joins the team, and they merge back into Aquarian. Jin fires a powerful attack, but Yunoha's power makes the Aquarian transparent, letting the blast pass through harmlessly. Using this new ability, they land a strong punch, destroying Jin's ship. Jin escapes but collects new data for his next move. After the battle, Mikono apologizes to Amata and Jessica for assuming the worst. The team encourages Yunoha to stop hiding and feel more confident. Yunoha smiles and touches Amata, which makes him float, just like he does when he's near Mikono. Everyone laughs, realizing Amata floats for anyone, not just Mikono. Later, Andy talks about his digging. He claims he's searching for hidden worlds underground, but in truth, he's trying to dig into the girls' dorm. While digging, he finds a hidden room and discovers a book inside. Excited, he tells his friends it's the Book of Twin Stars, a legendary book said to control the Aquarian. But his friends figure out it's just the school handbook. Embarrassed, Andy realizes it's not as special as he thought. On Altair, Isumo reveals a serious problem to Jin. All the women abducted from Vega have died, and Altair has no women left due to a mysterious disease. Without women, they can't reproduce, putting their world in danger. Isumo believes Mikono might be the key to saving them. He sends Jin back to Vega, this time piloting a suit himself. Jin agrees and starts upgrading his gear. Back on Vega, Amata and his friends talk about school rules. Mix complains about Jessica's revealing clothes, saying girls shouldn't dress like that. Suddenly, an alarm goes off, another abductor attack. Amata, Mikono, and Jessica merge into Aquarian and go into battle. Jin, now piloting his upgraded suit, attacks them. Kagura secretly watches, feeling upset as Jin hurts Mikono. Jin's suit is strong and counters all their moves. It uses a weapon that harms the pilots inside the Aquarian, forcing them to separate again. Jin targets Jessica, but she dodges in time. The team realizes that removing some of their clothing boosts their senses, making them stronger. Even Mikono, though shy, removes some clothes to help. Their embarrassment raises their power levels, letting them merge back into Aquarian. With their boosted strength, they deliver a massive punch, destroying Jin's suit. After the battle, Zen praises their new fighting style, saying they should embrace it if it helps them win. Later, Jessica secretly takes a cute photo of Amata and keeps it for herself. On Altair, Isumo and his team are worried. Jin's suit was destroyed, and they don't know if he survived. Some of Jin's friends want to search for him, but the higher-ups refuse. Mikage appears and uses his powers to motivate Jin's friends to break the rules and save him. They decide to do whatever it takes to bring him back. After some time, Andy wakes up one morning and sees that all the holes he worked so hard to dig have been filled in. He gets mad and is convinced it's the work of a girl. Amata suggests that it could have been a boy instead, but Andy doesn't agree. Meanwhile, Mikono is eating in the cafeteria, and Jessica starts teasing her about Amata. Mikono quickly denies having any romantic feelings for him, but Jessica suggests that if that's true, she should let him go. Mikono doesn't say anything back, and it seems like Jessica herself might be starting to like Amata. Somewhere else, the director of the academy is worried about Shrade. He thinks the darkness in Shrade's heart is getting worse, and Ken feels the same way. Ken begins to wonder if Shrade should even be allowed to fight anymore. Later, Andy and Amata go back to digging holes, and Amata asks Andy why he spends so much time on this strange hobby. Andy gives his usual answer. He believes there are secret worlds hidden underground, each with its own culture, but what he's really curious about is the women's bathroom. Suddenly, the holes start filling up again, forcing Andy and Amata to stop digging. They're shocked to see the person responsible. It's Mix. Andy is surprised and realizes that Mix is his rival. Her power to fill holes is the exact opposite of his power to dig them. The two start arguing right away. Mix questions why Andy is always digging holes, and Andy fires back, asking why she keeps filling them in. Their fight catches the attention of Zen, who watches them from a distance. Zen comes up with an idea and later calls Andy and Mix to the docking station. He tells them they should work together by piloting the vectors and even merge to form Aquarian. Both of them refuse instantly. During training, they argue so much that nothing gets done, and the session ends in complete failure. Zen decides to punish them. He locks them in a room, forcing Mix to dig holes and Andy to fill them up. While working, Andy teases Mix about why she dislikes men so much. He asks if her hatred also includes her father. This comment makes Mix go quiet, and she avoids talking until they're let out. Later, Mikono explains Mix's backstory to Amata. She says that Mix's father, a reporter, left her and her family for another woman. This left a deep emotional wound in Mix, making her hate anything that reminds her of emptiness, like holes. The next day, the academy is attacked by abductors. These enemies turn out to be Jin's allies who are searching for him. Zen forms a team of Mikono, Mix, and Andy to fight them, hoping they'll learn to cooperate. Andy is excited about the idea of merging with Mix, but she refuses. She tries to take on the enemies alone, but Andy stops her and reminds her that she can't win without help. Andy and Mikono encourage her to let go of the pain in her heart and give teamwork a try. Mix finally agrees to merge with them, but her hesitation causes the process to fail. The formation ends in disaster, and Andy gets injured. He is sent back to the base, leaving Amata to take his place in the fight. Even though Andy is no longer in the battle, he still feels emotionally connected to Mix. Amata and Mikono manage to convince Mix to try merging again. This time, she agrees, and during the process, she feels something amazing in her heart. Mikono's unique power to connect people and elements helps them succeed. Together, they form Aquarian and take down the enemies. Mix uses her ability to seal up the holes in the enemy's armor, causing their weapons to backfire and destroy themselves. This marks a turning point for Mix as she overcomes her fear of merging with a male pilot. After the battle, Mix and Andy return to their usual bickering. Their arguments seem to be their strange way of bonding. Meanwhile, Mikono and Amata share a sweet moment, but Zen interrupts them, reminding them that romance isn't allowed at the academy. Elsewhere, Jin is alive and secretly observing the academy. Soon after, he transfers to the school and introduces himself to the class. He's surprised to see so many girls around him and doesn't know how to act. Kan gives Jin a tour of the school, showing him places like the broken Berlin Wall and the Neo-DEAVA operations hub. Jin sneaks away during the tour to explore the weapons hangar and gather information. Later, Jin contacts Isumo, who tells him to find a strong Kagura and return safely. Jin reveals that the Academy's outdated technology made it easy for him to hack their system. He plans to use a special device to identify the strongest Kagura. At one point, Jin accidentally enters the girls' bathroom, causing chaos. The girls confront him, but Yunoha steps in and defends him, saying he's new and didn't know better. This kind gesture leaves an impression on Jin. Yunoha talks to Jin later, saying it's bad to isolate himself and that being alone can hurt more than he realizes. Her words make Jin think deeply about himself. Kan grows suspicious of Jin and starts watching him, thinking Jin might be connected to the abductors. One night, Jin sneaks to Yunoha's dorm to talk to her. Kan catches him and fires a warning shot. In a moment of panic, Jin unknowingly activates a barrier that blocks the attack, confirming Kan's suspicions. Meanwhile, on Altair, Mythic reveals his true goal, to awaken the mechanical angel of Genesis on Vega. On Vega, both Kan and Jin are locked up. Jin is in trouble for sneaking into the girls' dorm, and Kan is punished for pointing a gun at Jin. Jin is the first to be let out of his cell, while Kan stays behind, thinking about what he did wrong. As Jin leaves, he bumps into Yunoha, who's holding her usual stuffed animal, Tama. The director and other leaders at the academy find out that Jin isn't who he claimed to be. But instead of acting against him, they decide to keep him around because of his powers. As long as he's strong, they think he could still be useful. Meanwhile, Amata and his friends notice that Jin is mysterious, but they don't think he's a bad person. In another moment, Jessica drinks from Amata's straw, teasing him with what she calls an indirect kiss. On Altair, Kagura manages to get his armor and tries to escape. Isumo orders the gates to be closed to stop him, but Kagura refuses to stay. He threatens to destroy the city if they don't let him go. Isumo tries to reason with him, but Kagura doesn't listen. Mythic, secretly helping Kagura from afar, gives him extra strength. Kagura powers up, defeats the military forces sent after him, and escapes through the gate with Mythic's help. Back on Vega, Andy notices how Amata looks at Mikono. He teases him about having feelings for her and advises him to confess before it's too late. Amata says it's against the rules to have romantic relationships, but Andy tells him to ignore the rules for now. Andy warns Amata that Kagura is also interested in Mikono and could take her away. This makes Amata realize Andy is right, and he decides to talk to Mikono as soon as possible. Jessica, feeling ignored by Amata, stands in front of a mirror wondering why he likes Mikono and not her. She suddenly has a strange vision of Kagura and Mikono, leaving her confused and upset. Meanwhile, Amata takes Mikono to the riverside to talk. He tries to ask her about her plans for the future, but he struggles to express his feelings. Kagura, now fully powered, defeats the military on Altair and flies to Vega. With wings on his armor, he becomes even more dangerous. Mycage continues to give him energy through a dimensional gate, making him nearly unstoppable. Later, Jin is sitting by himself, eating a hot dog, when two girls approach him. They giggle and insist on taking photos with him. Jin feels shy but lets them. Elsewhere, Amata tells Andy he still hasn't had the courage to tell Mikono how he feels. Andy comes up with a plan to help him. He suggests organizing a fun event to bring them closer since the Academy's anniversary is coming up. Andy writes an invitation for Mikono, and Amata gives it to her during class. Jessica notices and insists on joining, which frustrates Andy because he knows Amata needs alone time with Mikono. That night, Andy prepares the boys' dorm for the event. While he's cleaning, Jin walks in, and Andy invites him to join the event to help him get used to being around people. Meanwhile, Mikono and Jessica crawl through a hidden tunnel to sneak into the boys' dorm. Yunoha follows them, asking if she can come along. On the way, they run into Kayen and Shrade, who escort them to the dorm. When they arrive, Jessica begins snooping around. She finds a picture under Amata's bed of Sylphie, who is actually Alicia, a famous actress. Jin recognizes her immediately. Everyone is surprised when Jin shows them a video of Alicia singing. They decide to feature Alicia's movie Skies of Aquaria at the anniversary celebration. The next day, Andy hands out posters for the event. Jin tries to contact Altair from a private spot but struggles to connect. Yunoha sees him and tries to talk, but Jin accidentally tears her stuffed animal, Tama. Feeling bad, he fixes it and later apologizes. Yunoha forgives him, and they decide to watch the movie together. During the event, Amata and Mikono grow closer. Amata tells Mikono that Alicia, the actress in the movie, is his mother. He explains that she left him when he was little, making him feel like he wasn't wanted. Mikono reassures him, saying he's not unwanted. Amata asks if she'll watch the rest of the movie with him, and she agrees. Jessica sees them and feels jealous. Meanwhile, Mycage moves Jin's device without him knowing. Yunoha finds it and hears a message from Isumo, warning Jin that Kagura is coming for Mikono. When Jin meets Yunoha, she hides the device and doesn't mention what she heard. Suddenly, an alarm goes off. Abductors are attacking Vega. Amata, Mikono, and Jessica rush to the hangar and merge into Aquarian to fight Kagura. Kagura is thrilled to see Mikono and calls her Sylphie. His power is overwhelming, boosted by Mycage's support. The trio realizes they can't win unless they cut off the dimensional gate supplying Kagura's energy. Jin tries to convince Yunoha to leave Vega with him, but she refuses. She wants him to help fight Kagura, but Jin insists on completing his mission. He powers up a vector to leave, confirming Kayen's suspicions that he's a traitor. Kayen wants to stop him but is too late. Jin escapes. Back at the operations room, Mycage appears, shocking everyone. He confronts Zen and Donar, revealing that they know each other from the past. Meanwhile, Kagura defeats Aquarian and opens the cockpit to grab Mikono. Amata, barely conscious, activates his wings and rescues her just in time. But Kagura shoots Amata down, aiming to kill him. In the operations room, Mycage demands Zen reveal the location of the solar wings. Donar tries to attack Mycage but is easily overpowered. Mycage retreats, leaving everyone shaken. Meanwhile, Kagura is about to finish off Amata when Andy shows up and traps Kagura in one of his holes. Amata and Mikono use the chance to escape and reunite with Andy and Mix. Kagura, furious about being stopped, breaks free from the hole, ready to attack them again. However, the arrival of other vectors forces him to hold back. The director orders all the elements to merge again. To everyone's surprise, Jin and Yunoha return. Yunoha had convinced Jin to help, and now Jin expresses his desire to merge with the team. Before he can, Mycage appears and punishes Jin for betraying him. Mycage touches Jin's head, injuring him, but Jin stands firm and insists on helping. The team merges successfully, creating two Aquarians to fight Kagura. The battle intensifies as they push Kagura into a rock, but Kagura fights back with a powerful counterattack. The team realizes that Kagura is drawing strength from the dimensional gate Mycage is controlling. To To defeat him, they need to destroy the gate. Jin comes up with a plan, using his power while the others support him. Together, they create a massive wave that destroys the gate, cutting off Kagura's energy supply. With the gate gone, Kagura charges at them in desperation. Jin uses all his strength to protect his friends, but the strain is too much. Ken finishes Kagura off, and the team celebrates their victory. However, Jin collapses, his injury worsening. His device falls from his pocket, playing a recording of how much he admired Yunoha. Tragically, Jin does not survive the battle. A funeral is held for Jin and the other fallen heroes. Flowers surround the church as the deceased are honored. Back on Altair, Isumo learns about Jin's death and blames Mythic for his loss. Mythic brushes it off, claiming his actions were necessary to save Altair, a dying planet. He argues that they need to bring females to Altair to ensure survival for the next generation. Isumo, while understanding the logic, feels deep guilt and asks for Jin's forgiveness. Yunoha, devastated by Jin's death, locks herself in her room and refuses to come out. Mikono worries about her but doesn't want to disturb her, thinking Yunoha needs time to grieve. Zen approaches Mikono, urging him to help Yunoha before she becomes consumed by her sadness. Mikono hesitates but agrees when Zen warns him that Yunoha could destroy herself if left alone. Mikono brings food to Yunoha's room to comfort her. Yunoha blames herself for Jin's death, believing he would still be alive if she had gone with him. Mikono gently encourages her to come out and pay her respects to Jin. After much hesitation, Yunoha agrees. Elsewhere, Amata is packing up Jin's belongings when he finds a picture of Sylphie, the actress from the movie Skies of Aquaria. This makes him wonder if his mother, Alicia, is on Altair. Soon after, the students head to the cemetery to lay their fallen comrades to rest. On the way, some students express fear and want to quit the academy. Mix tries to convince them to stay, but Andy stops her, saying they shouldn't force anyone to stay against their will. At the cemetery, Zen orders the students to dig holes and bury themselves as part of a strange training exercise. Many students are upset, feeling it's disrespectful so soon after the funeral. Zen explains that burying themselves is necessary to let go of their fear of death and become stronger. Shrade is the first to comply, jumping into a hole. Yunoha follows, and soon most of the students do the same. Mikono and Amata are the only ones left. Zen grabs Amata with super speed and throws him into a hole, sealing it shut. Mikono is left on the surface, worried about her friends underground. Inside the holes, the students begin to connect with each other and overcome their fears. Mikono's power of connection helps them feel calm and safe, and they rise from the holes feeling reborn. Mikono greets Amata with a happy birthday as everyone celebrates their newfound strength. However, the celebration is interrupted when Kagura bursts out of one of the holes. No one had realized he was buried alongside them. Kagura's murderous intent alarms Zen, but he leaves the students to face Kagura, wanting to test their new abilities. Kagura immediately targets Mikono. Donar tells the girls to leave while he fights Kagura, but Kagura easily overpowers him. Andy creates holes to trap Kagura, and Mix seals them, but Kagura breaks out with ease. He grabs Mix, but realizing she isn't Mikono, throws her aside and continues his pursuit. Amata and his friends try to protect Mikono, but Kagura is too strong. He transforms into a beast and chases after the car carrying Mikono. Shrade uses his sound abilities to slow Kagura down, but Kagura breaks free and catches up. Using his reversal power, Kagura forces the car into reverse, causing it to crash into a tree. He grabs Mikono and takes her to a tower to hide her. A search party is launched to rescue Mikono. Donar, Andy, Yunoha, and Mix search by helicopter while others search on the ground. At the tower, Kagura keeps Mikono quiet, covering her mouth when the helicopter passes nearby. Kagura tries to contact Mythic to report his success, but Mythic ignores him. Meanwhile, Jessica assures Amata that Kagura won't harm Mikono because Kagura believes she's his destined partner. At the tower, Kagura licks Mikono's wound and calls her Sylphie. Mikono recalls that he's called her this name before. Kagura begins telling her the story of two lovers, Apollon and Sylphie, who were separated but promised to find each other again to save the Tree of Life. Jessica narrates the same story to Amata, revealing that Kagura believes Mikono is Sylphie, his destined lover. Jessica hopes this means she still has a chance with Amata. At the same time, the team hears a loud crash coming from the tower, which makes them think Kagura might be hiding there. They rush over to check, and Amata tries to rescue Mikono. However, Kagura steps in and blocks his path. With one hit, Kagura knocks Amata to the ground. Still determined, Amata shouts to Jessica, telling her to call KN and let him know their location. Amata decides to distract Kagura to give the others a better chance to save Mikono. Amata runs, leading Kagura away, who is now full of anger and chasing him. Meanwhile, a helicopter spots Mikono, who is barely holding on. Kagura eventually catches up to Amata and begins beating him up. Amata fights back but is no match for Kagura's incredible strength. Kagura punches him hard, slamming him against a wall and knocking him out. While unconscious, Amata starts having strange thoughts. He remembers the time he was reborn in darkness and realizes he can use that power to his advantage. When he wakes up, he feels stronger and even begins to float. A glowing shield surrounds him, blocking Kagura's attacks. Kagura tries again, but Kien suddenly shows up and shoots Kagura from behind. The attack throws Kagura off balance, but he recovers quickly and knocks the gun out of Kien's hands. Kien tells Amata to pick up the gun and finish Kagura. Amata hesitates but eventually picks up the weapon. As he's about to shoot, Mikono arrives and begs him to stop. She pleads with Amata not to kill Kagura. Suddenly, flower petals appear out of nowhere and surround Kagura. The petals lift him into the air, and he floats away, leaving everyone stunned. Back at the academy, Mikono is summoned to Kriya's office. Kriya scolds her for letting Kagura escape and punishes her by confining her to her dorm. This is a temporary punishment until a more formal decision is made. After leaving the office, Mikono runs into Yunoha, who reassures her that she's not alone and promises to support her no matter what. Mikono admits she's confused about her actions and doesn't fully understand what's happening. Meanwhile, Andy and Amata secretly listen to their conversation through a hidden hole Andy had dug. Later, they return to their dorm to talk about what they overheard. Amata wonders if their connection to Kagura and Mikono was somehow destined thousands of years ago. Andy agrees it's possible and mentions how he feels connected to Mix through his holes. He encourages Amata to find his own connection to Mikono. Andy jokingly suggests that winning over Mikono's pet Shushu might help. Determined, Amata heads to the store and buys treats and toys for Shushu. Jessica sees him leaving the store and feels bad about some of the things she said earlier. She considers taking back her words but is reassured by Mix that it's unnecessary. Meanwhile, on the planet Altair, a city called Iron Sea is facing severe power issues. Isumo, concerned about the city's survival, reveals that it was built by his mother and feels responsible for finding a solution. Back on Vega, Zen announces a new training exercise to prepare the elements for upcoming battles. He pairs Amata, Mikono, and Jessica against Kien, Bianca, and Malloy. Zen tells them to fight as if they are real enemies. The teams merge with their vectors to form their respective Aquarians and begin the mock battle. Kien's team takes the offensive right away, attacking aggressively. Kien's Aquarian is built for long-range combat, giving them an advantage. He also has a new ability to see 3 seconds into the future, allowing him to predict every move Amata's team makes. Struggling to keep up, Amata's team finds themselves cornered. Seeing Amata losing confidence, Jessica decides to confess her feelings to motivate him. She gets close to him but struggles to find the words. Finally, in the heat of the battle, she shouts, "I love you," loud enough for everyone to hear. Her confession triggers a sudden transformation in Amata's Aquarian, which evolves into a more powerful form called Aquarian EVO. The new Aquarian unleashes a devastating attack called the Mugen Punch, which is so powerful that it creates visions of 2 men fighting thousands of years ago. One of the men looks like Zen, while the other is someone Mikono vaguely recognizes but can't identify. The punch causes a massive explosion that destroys most of the training area, but leaves both teams unharmed. After the battle, Jessica tells Amata not to worry about her confession, saying she doesn't want to pressure him. However, Mikono sees them talking and becomes jealous. She runs away, and when Amata tries to follow her, Shushu jumps on his face and scratches him, stopping him. Later, Mikono finds Jessica sitting alone. Jessica admits that she's okay with loving Amata, even if he doesn't feel the same way. Meanwhile, Mix is frustrated that some of the team is focused on romance instead of preparing for battles. The next day, Zen announces a secret mission for the team. They aren't told any details, and their vectors are programmed to take them to the location automatically. Suomi accompanies them, but she doesn't know the mission's purpose either. When they arrive at an island, the team is given time to relax while waiting for instructions. Mix accidentally hits Andy with a banana, and they return to the ship, where Andy tries to confess his feelings for her. However, he nervously says, "I want to fill your hole," which makes Mix angry. She storms off, leaving Andy embarrassed. Suddenly, the weather changes, and a dimensional gate opens, revealing an abductor. The team quickly merges their vectors and fights back. During the battle, Andy accidentally digs into a hidden cave containing a mysterious object. This triggers the vectors to combine into a powerful new Aquarian. Together, they destroy the abductor and secure victory. Back at the academy, Jessica surprises everyone by wearing a more modest outfit. She tells Mikono that she's not ready to stop loving Amata, even if he doesn't love her back. Meanwhile, Mix feels guilty about Andy's sadness but struggles to admit her feelings. That night, Mikono receives a letter from her father. She hesitates to read it but eventually gives it to Koen, realizing it's meant for him. The letter reveals that their father is willing to take Mikono away from the academy if Koen thinks she's a burden. Mikono keeps this to herself, feeling hurt and unsure of her place. Later, Mix confides in Mikono about her guilt over Andy. The two girls bond over their struggles with relationships and agree that some things are difficult to understand, even for themselves. Later, Suomi noticed Jessica coming out of one of the vector machines, surprised that she had been training. Later, Jessica went to the bathroom, sat in the tub, and thought about everything she had been doing lately. On Altair, the situation was getting worse. Energy and production levels had dropped a lot, and they were running out of resources to meet the basic needs of their people. Isumo realized they couldn't keep making trips to Vega if they wanted the planet to survive. Things were getting desperate, and Kagura was still missing. Isumo suspected that Mythic was behind it all. He thought Mythic didn't care about what happened to their planet. Determined to do something, Isumo decided to go to Vega himself to get the rare Kagura. He ordered his men to prepare his royal armor, the Aura Ignis, and before leaving, he went to the pod station to check on Alicia, hoping to find her son during his trip to Vega. Back on Vega, Koen called Mikono and told her he knew she had read their father's letter. He reassured her that he didn't see her as a burden and was actually proud of how much she had grown. Koen said he wanted to share this with their father. Soon after, Isumo and 3 other abductors arrived on Vega. Neo-DEAVA noticed them right away, but these abductors looked different. Their armor was bold and impressive, nothing like the ones they had seen before. Andy tried to operate a vector to join the fight, but because he was in such a bad emotional state, the system wouldn't let him. The rest of the elements were put on standby to fight Isumo and his group. Donner sent Amata, Jessica, Mix, Koen, and Malloy to face the enemy. The battle started, and Isumo's mecha turned out to be incredibly strong. It had advanced weapons and strong defenses, making it hard for the elements to land any real hits. Amata and his team struggled to figure out how to break through Isumo's defenses. Jessica, motivated by her emotions and her desire to move on from her unrequited love, fought harder than ever. As she merged with Amata and Malloy, Amata began to feel her emotions. Jessica became reckless and charged at Isumo without thinking things through. Isumo easily deflected her attacks and countered with stronger moves. Malloy was knocked out because of Jessica's recklessness, and Koen had to take his place. Amata kept attacking Isumo but couldn't land a single hit. Isumo even managed to hack into Neo-DEAVA's communication systems. He introduced himself as the leader of Altair and said he wasn't there to harm Vega but to find women to save his planet. When Jessica heard this, she impulsively flew toward the gate, ready to sacrifice herself. Her friends tried to stop her, leading to more fighting. During this chaos, Amata's VOR transformed, and Isumo realized Amata was Alicia's son. At the same time, Amata saw a vision of his mother, confirming Isumo's suspicions. Isumo understood that Mythic was manipulating everything. Nyx tried to stop Jessica, but one of the abductors hit her hard, knocking her unconscious. Instead of taking Jessica, Isumo and the abductors captured Nyx. Andy cried out in pain as he saw her being taken away. Amata and Koen fought desperately to stop them but couldn't. Impressed by Zen's power, Isumo decided to retreat, taking Nyx with him. Jessica collapsed, overwhelmed by guilt, and Amata rushed to help her. The team now had to figure out how to rescue Nyx. Back at the academy, Andy, overwhelmed by anger and sadness, punched Amata, blaming him for not saving Nyx. Koen stopped the fight and reminded Andy that Nyx had been trying to save Jessica when she was taken. Jessica, feeling even more guilty, ran away. In the operations room, Kriya and Donner discussed Zen's absence and how the dimensional gate had shut, making it impossible to reach Altair. Kriya reassured everyone that Zen was probably working on a solution. A week passed, and Andy wouldn't leave the deep hole he had dug. He refused food and comfort, worrying Amata and Yunoha. Yunoha, who understood what it felt like to lose someone, didn't want Andy to go through the same pain. Meanwhile, Jessica locked herself in her room, struggling with her emotions. While she was alone, her mirror shattered, and Mythic appeared. He sympathized with her pain and offered to open the dimensional gate in exchange for her help. He left a strange purple mark on her forehead before disappearing. The next day, Mikono told Amata she was going to find Zen. She believed her power to connect people could help bring Nyx back. Despite Amata's protests, Mikono boarded a boat and left. She admitted to Yunoha that she had feelings for Amata and blamed herself for not saying anything sooner. Suddenly, the dimensional gate reopened. Andy rushed to the operations room, demanding to be sent to Altair. The director hesitated, thinking it might be a trap since no abductors had come through the gate. While they argued, Kriya received a message from Zen, saying the gate was safe and instructing them to send the elements. The team prepared to leave. Just before departure, Shrade knocked Kaen unconscious and took his place, joining the mission instead. When they arrived on Altair, alarms went off, alerting Isumo. He suspected Mycage was involved and knew the gate's activation had drained more of the city's limited energy. The military didn't detect anything and assumed it was a malfunction. Meanwhile, Amata and the team used Yunoha's powers to remain invisible as they entered the city. The team moved cautiously through the city, facing challenges with its advanced technology and tight security. They noticed there were no women on the planet and realized why Altair had been abducting girls. Yunoha and Jessica also felt their breathing change but didn't understand why. They saw a large tower and assumed Mix was there. They made it their target. Inside, the security system detected them, triggering an alarm. They fought guards and captured a masked man to guide them but couldn't make much progress. Andy, desperate to save Mix, created a distraction, allowing Amata to escape. Amata used his powers to fly through the building and reach the top. Isumo saw him and immediately recognized him as the winged boy. When Amata arrived at the pod station, he was shocked to see his mother, Alicia, inside one of the pods. Meanwhile, Andy got caught by the guards, and when they took off his helmet, his long hair spilled out, making him look like a woman. The hole he made earlier in the ground closed up, trapping him. Amata, meanwhile, was heartbroken, staring at his mom, Alicia, who was inside a strange pod. He didn't understand why she left him. As he flew closer to get a better look, guards surrounded him and aimed their weapons. Before they could fire, Isumo arrived and ordered them to leave. Though hesitant to leave their leader alone, the guards obeyed. Alone with Amata, Isumo promised to explain everything, including the curse affecting their planet, Altair. Elsewhere, Yunoha, Jessica, and Shrade returned to where the vectors were parked. The girls were talking about how strange Altair was, especially the metal plates covering the sky and how hard it was to breathe. Shrade wandered off, saying the planet reminded him of himself. Andy, locked in a cell, felt confident he could escape. Back on Vega, Mikono kept searching for Zen, moving from town to town. She eventually found him in a harbor town, where he revealed he had been following her the entire time. Zen said his body never aged, and his soul would remain eternal. He promised to tell her everything about how it all began 24,000 years ago. On Altair, Isumo explained that all the women on their planet had died 14 years ago, with Jin being the last child born. This was why they had been abducting women from Vega. Amata, furious, called them selfish and tried to attack Isumo, but Isumo easily dodged. He told Amata to calm down and listen. While escaping his cell, Andy overheard on a guard's radio that Amata was with Isumo in Alicia's room. Determined to find him, Andy kept moving. Isumo continued to share the truth, revealing that the women brought from Vega were also affected by the curse, which transformed them into men. Alicia, though strong, wasn't the true Eve they were looking for. Amata demanded to know what happened to those women. But before Isumo could answer, the Aquarian appeared. Yunoha had used her powers to hide it. The team wanted to leave quickly because Yunoha and Jessica were struggling to breathe on Altair. They found Andy and worked together to fight off guards. Andy told them where Amata was, and they rushed to help. Isumo revealed that Mix had been transformed into a man named Mixie because of the curse. Andy was devastated when he realized Mixie no longer remembered her past. His emotions got out of control, causing him to create a black hole. Shrade used his abilities to contain the black hole and create a path through the dimensional gate. Exhausted, they managed to escape Altair. As they left, Mixie coldly told them, "I'm not Mix anymore. My name is Mixie." Back on Vega, the team was relieved to be home but disturbed by what they learned. Amata had more questions about his mom, Alicia, and what Isumo had told him. Andy struggled to control his powers and could only feel calm sitting on holes Mix had filled, where his powers didn't activate. Shrade was recovering but preparing to play one final tune before his time ran out. Jessica, haunted by Mycage's voice, was reminded of a promise she didn't remember making. Amata couldn't sit still. He took a vector and flew off, determined to find Mikono. Ignoring orders to stop, he disappeared, leaving Kriya no choice but to send Kaen and Jessica after him. Using his prediction abilities, Kaen tracked Amata to the town where he first met Mikono. Amata found the town destroyed and deserted. In the theater where he used to work, he found pictures of his mom, Alicia, on the walls. Confused, he wondered who put them there. At the same time, Kagura wandered the town and found a photo of Alicia holding baby Amata. The photo triggered his forgotten memories. Jessica found Amata and explained that everyone in the town had been evacuated, which was why it was empty. Before she could ask more questions, an abductor under Mythic control appeared and chased them. Amata nearly got crushed by falling rubble, but Jessica saved him, trapping herself instead. She begged him to leave her and escape, but he refused. She confessed her love and kissed him, activating his floating ability, which allowed him to escape. The abductor attacked Jessica, and rubble fell on her. The abductor went after Amata, but Kien arrived just in time to block the attack. Shrade and Bianca joined the fight, forming Aquarian to battle the abductor. Amata ran into Kagura, who threw the photo of Alicia at him. At the same time, Mikono and Zen are watching everything through a strange opening in space. Zen tells her that the solar wing is waking up. At the same time, Kagura confronts Amata and drops a bombshell. They are two parts of the same person. While they fight, Kriya and Donar notice that Shrade isn't wearing the special suit meant to protect him during battles. He's doing this to sync better with the machine, but it's clearly damaging his body. Even though he's in pain, Shrade doesn't care because he's focused on hearing the world's melody. Kagura reveals that he and Amata were originally one person, but they were split when their mother left them for the alternate world, Altair. He says he became the strong and brave side, while Amata is the weak and scared side. After their mother disappeared, Kagura went through a gate to find her but lost his memories. On Altair, Mythic erased his past and gave him the name Kagura. Now, Kagura doesn't care about their mother or anything else, he only wants Mikono, whom he calls Sylphie. Amata gets angry and swears he won't let Kagura hurt Mikono. He rushes at Kagura, but Kagura easily knocks him down. Mikono screams at them to stop fighting, but Kagura ignores her. Just then, the solar wing starts to awaken, and the ground collapses. Mikono falls, but a rusty, ancient machine rises from the earth and catches her. The machine is called the Mythic Aquarian, long thought to be lost. Both Kagura and Amata call out to Mikono, but Kagura shocks everyone by saying he wants to kill her, thinking it will make her his forever. Back in the control room, the team is stunned to realize the machine is the Mythic Aquarian. Kagura keeps beating Amata, enjoying his pain. Mikono begs Kagura to stop, but he refuses and attacks even harder. Elsewhere, Jessica wakes up in a strange, empty place. She wonders if she's dead, but Mythic appears and tells her she can't die yet. He brings her back to life, and she wakes up to see Kagura and Amata fighting over Mikono. Kagura says fate has chosen him and Mikono to be together, but Amata yells that Kagura only cares about fate, not Mikono herself. Amata says he loves Mikono for who she is, not because of who she might have been in the past. Kagura pushes Amata toward a deep pit, but Amata's wings appear just in time, letting him fly back up. In the control room, Shrade's condition gets worse, and he starts coughing up blood. Kriya tells him to stop, and Yunoha takes over for him. Amata flies toward Mikono, determined to save her, but Kagura blocks his path using his powers. Kriya asks Zen if he will step in to help, but Zen only gives her one of his usual mysterious answers. As the fight continues, the rusty Mythic Aquarian starts to glow and shed its old outer layer, revealing shiny armor underneath. Suddenly, the enemy abductor grabs the Mythic Aquarian and pulls it through a dimensional gate. Kagura takes Mikono with him, leaving Amata behind. In the control room, Shrade begs Kriya to let him fight again, even though he's clearly unwell. He reminds her that she knew this would happen when she brought him into the team. With a nod, she allows it. Amata, Jessica, and Shrade jump into their machines and follow Kagura through the gate. They merge into the Aquarian Spada, and a huge fight breaks out inside the gate. Shrade pushes himself to his limit, powering up the Aquarian so they can destroy the enemy. The abductor is defeated, but Shrade collapses from exhaustion, and the Aquarian splits back into 3 separate machines. Meanwhile, on Altair, Isumo orders his military to hold back. He doesn't want Kagura to have Mikono, so he's waiting for the right moment to act. Back on Vega, Zen explains to Kriya that the Mythic Aquarian's awakening has disrupted the balance between Vega and Altair, putting both worlds at risk of destruction. However, he says that the Mythic Aquarian can only activate with a chosen pilot, which gives them hope. Despite being weak, Shrade insists on merging again to help his friends. Together, the team crosses the dimensional gate. On Vega, Zen gathers everyone and reveals an ancient story from 24,000 years ago. He takes off his eye patch, showing a strange book of the twin stars. The team finds themselves inside the book as Zen begins to tell them the tale. Amata, Jessica, and Shrade listen carefully. Kriya begins telling an old story. The first part takes place 24,000 years ago. An angel named Apollonius fell in love with a human woman, Celian. To protect humans, Apollonius used a powerful machine called the Mythic Aquarian to fight another angel, Toma. Toma was Apollonius's fiancée, and she was furious and heartbroken that he betrayed her. At the same time, a flying dog named Pollen loved Celian too, but he knew she'd never love him back because he was just a dog. Pollen wished he could be reborn as a human. This part ends with Toma's anger and Pollen's sad love. The second part of the story happens 12,000 years ago. Humans are now fighting the angels, using the Mythic Aquarian to protect themselves. A boy named Apollo is chosen to pilot the machine. In this life, Apollo is actually Pollen reincarnated as a human, and Celian has also been reborn as Sylvia. Fate brings Apollo and Sylvia together, but Toma has also returned, full of hatred. Toma wants to destroy everything Apollonius left behind. His anger leads to the destruction of the Shadow Angels. As Kriya tells this story, the team realizes history keeps repeating itself in the battles between Vega and Altair. The final part of the story takes place in the present. A long time ago, the Tree of Life died, which caused Earth to split into two parts, Vega and Altair. These lands used to be one world. Now, Pollen has been reborn again. This time as Alicia's child, Amata. But someone else was reincarnated first and kept all their memories, Toma, who is now called Mikono. Mikono used his power to split Pollen's reincarnation into two people, hoping to use them for revenge. Mikono, meanwhile, is the reincarnation of Celian. The story ends here for now, and it's up to the team to decide what happens next. Mikono wakes up in Kagura's arms and apologizes for not understanding his feelings sooner. Meanwhile, Shrade creates a perfect melody to help his friends escape from the dimensional gate. As he plays, Shrade reflects on his life. The Aquarian splits apart, and Shrade dies inside the gate. Kayan senses Shrade's death from far away and cries for him. It seems the future story is now being written in sacrifice and loss. On Altair, Jessica is searching for Amata. She meets Mikono, who reminds her of a promise she made. Mikono takes control of her body and traps her soul in another realm. Nearby, Isumo and his soldiers find Kagura and Mikono. They demand Kagura give up Mikono, but he refuses. Just as Isumo is about to attack Kagura, Jessica appears, but it's really Mikono controlling her. Mikono tells Kagura he's the chosen one and should summon the Mythic Aquarian. Kagura listens, and the Aquarian appears. Mikono, Kagura, and Mikono enter the Aquarian to face Isumo and his men. Mikono is thrilled because everything is going exactly as he planned. Back on Vega, the team is worried. The world is becoming unstable, and they haven't heard from Amata or the others. They need to get to Altair, but there's no dimensional gate available. Andy steps up and says he'll create one. He once opened a gate by accident and believes he can do it again. The director gives him permission to try. On Altair, the Mythic Aquarian is surrounded by enemies. With one powerful move, it destroys all of them except Isumo. Isumo fights back using his own machine, the Knives. He absorbs the Aquarian's attacks and counters. Kagura uses his reversal powers to block Isumo, leading to a standoff. Just then, Mix shows up to help Isumo. Mikono is shocked to see Mix, but Mix now sees herself as someone entirely different. Back on Vega, Andy successfully creates the dimensional gate, and he, Kayan, and Malloy travel to Altair. The fight continues, and Mix hears someone calling her name. She tries to ignore it, but Kagura punches her, and Mikono begs him to stop, saying Mix is still her friend. Isumo delivers a strong attack that damages the Mythic Aquarian badly. Meanwhile, Amata wakes up to a voice calling him and starts heading toward it. Andy and his team arrive just as Kagura is about to deal a final blow to Mix. Andy tries to talk to Mix, reminding her of their good times together, but she refuses to listen. The Mythic Aquarian and Isumo keep fighting fiercely. Isumo asks Kagura if he doesn't care about saving Altair. Kagura replies that he doesn't care about anything except Mikono. As long as he has her, nothing else matters, not even the world. Amata reaches a pod station and discovers that the voice calling him is his mother, Alicia. In the fight, Mix begins to remember her past with Andy. At the cryo station, Amata confronts his mother, Alicia, yelling at her for abandoning him. Alicia admits she doesn't expect forgiveness but wants to explain why she left. She reveals that Amata's father is Isumo, shocking him. Alicia shares her story. Years ago, Isumo's ship crashed on Vega after the women on Altair died. Alicia found and cared for him. They grew close, and Isumo later returned to Altair without telling anyone. After a few years, he came back, and by then, Alicia had given birth to Amata. Isumo explained Altair's crisis, and Alicia volunteered to go with him because she loved him. She left Amata behind to keep him safe. Hearing this, Amata says he has always been angry with her but now forgives her. Meanwhile, Isumo and Kagura are still fighting. Isumo declares he can't lose because he doesn't want Alicia's sacrifice to be meaningless. He absorbs all the energy from the city into his machine, making him much stronger. He warns Kagura to give up or be destroyed. Mycage, watching, takes control of the Mythic Aquarian and shoots toward the cryo station, where Alicia is. The explosion kills Alicia, but Amata survives. Furious, Amata blames Kagura for everything. As Isumo is distracted, Kagura lands a powerful hit on his machine. Isumo retaliates with a blast that splits the Mythic Aquarian into smaller machines and crash lands near the cryo station. Amata rushes to him, and Isumo apologizes for taking Alicia away. Isumo then notices mayflies, which haven't been seen since the women of Altair died. He realizes the city's construction drained energy from the planet, causing the women's deaths. Feeling that his life's work was a failure, Isumo collapses. Alicia's spirit appears to him, reassuring him that their son, Amata, will reunite the worlds. Isumo passes away, and Alicia's spirit takes him away. Amata is consumed with anger, blaming Kagura for the loss of both his parents. Meanwhile, Kagura wakes up in his machine, searching for Mikono. He looks back to see Amata coming straight for him, filled with rage. Amata transforms into a partial mechanical angel and attacks Kagura, slamming him into a rock. Kagura, realizing they are two halves of the same soul, transforms into a similar mechanical angel, and their battle continues. Meanwhile, Altair moves closer to Vega, visible in Vega's sky. Elsewhere, Andy is fighting Mix, trying to bring her back to her senses. He uses all his power, but Mix resists. Andy pins her to a rock and steps out of his machine, speaking to her directly. When he mentions filling the hole in her heart, Mix suddenly remembers him and who she is. Embarrassed but moved, Mix accepts Andy, and he promises to stay with her no matter what. Just as they're ready to merge, Kriya replaces them with Yunoha for the battle. The fight between Amata and Kagura intensifies. Amata accuses Kagura of having everything he wanted on Altair, but still ruining it. Kagura admits he didn't know about their parents and that he was raised by Mycage, who treated him poorly. He punches Amata into a river, but Amata rises, determined to punish him. Meanwhile, with Altair nearing Vega, Kriya discovers that Mycage plans to merge the worlds and become their ruler. As Amata and Kagura fight, Mikono wakes up in a machine and rushes to stop them. Mycage intercepts her and reveals he's controlling Zessica's body. Mycage explains his backstory. He was betrayed by Apollonius, whom he loved. Mycage wants to create his own world to avoid being hurt again. He forces Mikono to merge with him, forming a dark Aquarian. Amata and Kagura hear Mikono's scream and try to save her. Mycage's Aquarian begins absorbing Altair's energy. Malloy, Kayan, and Yunoha arrive to help. Amata takes Malloy's place, and they form Aquarian Evil to fight Mycage. However, Mycage overpowers them easily and mocks their attempts. Mycage also takes control of Kagura's machine, transforming into a towering dark Aquarian. Inside Mycage's mind, Kagura meets Zessica, who begs him to kill her to stop Mycage. Though reluctant, Kagura starts to comply, but then changes his mind, unwilling to let her die. Enraged, Mycage says he no longer needs Zessica or Kagura since he has Mikono, the ultimate power. Mycage summons a dark sun that starts draining energy from both worlds. The intense heat begins to scorch Vega. Kayan and Yunoha are forced out of their machines, leaving Amata alone. Mix and Andy arrive to help, along with the souls of Shrade and others, powering up the team. Together, they merge again, forming a new Aquarian to fight Mycage. Despite their combined efforts, Mycage is too powerful. He starts pulling the planets together, threatening to destroy them. Inside Mycage's mind, Mikono sees his pain and betrayal. Zen appears to her and urges her to keep watching to understand. Mikono realizes Mycage's deep love for Apollonius and apologizes for his suffering, asking him to spare the world. Amata and Kagura rejoin the fight, with Zessica and Mikono providing support. Amata and Mikono's love for each other transforms the Aquarian into a new form. Love, reversing the Dark Sun's effects and reconnecting the two worlds. Mycage's soul is expelled and caught by Zen, who reveals himself as the current reincarnation of Apollonius. Zen takes Mycage into his heart, letting him rest. As peace returns, Amata emerges from the water with Mikono in his arms. Kagura and the others rush to meet them. Zen announces that the ban on love is lifted, and Amata and Mikono's love rewrites the 24,000-year-old myth, bringing balance to both worlds. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video, and I will be back with a new one.